Capcom. Okay, we are live with another episode of BS Busters, and I mean, let's get into it. But before we do, let's have everyone introduce themselves. So, who wants to go first?
I'll do it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, this is Joe Ray Lemonstar. Welcome you to the BS Busters. And of course, we have a lot of BS to sweep out, including a certain game store that just pulled a Microsoft or Sony. I'm not sure which one to call it.
Both. It's Microsoft and Sony. Micro dick Microsoft and shitty Sony. But without that being said, let the lady, you introduce yourself, didn't you, Joel?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, then which one of you gentlemen wants to introduce himself?
I guess it's mine.
Oh. Okay, yeah, Kenoshi, go.
Oh, my name is Kenoshi Abominito, and glad to be on another BS Busters.
All right.
And this is Piggy Dog by Video Game Facts. And today we're gonna be and it's that time of the year again. Nintendo's quarterly financial reports. Even though
third quarter financial results. We won't get the full picture how much money they've made this fiscal year until March. I think that's the end of their fiscal year, but third quarter is pretty good. Yeah. So 3/4 of the way through. And of course, it's me, Mr. Red Fox. And let's get down to it. So this podcast came up because I saw some things come up this week where I was just like, this
really
is some bullshit. And I can't believe that no one's saying anything. And like literally in my head, I was like, can you believe this shit? And no one said a word. Like it was like, well, you know, it's the equivalent of seeing someone puke up a slug and then it crawls away. And people just ignore it, just looking at it. And I'm like, how can here we have someone who puked up a slug
and nobody blinked.
No one's saying anything. We're just gonna walk around the man who puked up a slug. So, you know, I decided, you know, I have to talk about this. This cannot be ignored. So I guess we can start with what should we start with first? You want to do Nintendo or the Epic Games debacle?
Something tells me it's going to be a nightmare for me to hear it, so might as well. Let's get rid of Nintendo first.
Well, it's nothing bad. I mean, they made a lot of money. They made $958 million worth of profit, and that's just in the first quarter. I mean, that's just in the third quarter.
I'm actually surprised, but then again, I can already hear the phrase of somebody in this podcast.
Though they did took a step back on their financial goal from 20 million to 17 million.
Well, that makes sense because they didn't have any really big games aside from Smash Brothers come out and Pokemon. And I think a lot of the people who got Pokemon Let's Go, I think a lot of those are people who already had Switches.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it pushed the install base as much as they thought it was going to. I think Smash Brothers pushed it further than that. I think a lot of people the new people who bought a Switch this holiday season was because of Smash Brothers, not because of Pokemon Let's Go. Pokemon Let's Go is a game like I already have a Switch and I have a smartphone and we played Pokemon Go and this shares a similar name, so why the hell not? Like, I mean, like here's the thing. I don't like the game, but I'm not gonna shit on it because I don't like it. It sold. I think it's like the third highest. I think it sold like 10.58 million units. So, I mean, you know, to be fair, it's the first Pokemon spinoff that's actually done really well. Like really, really, really well. Because the rest of them were kind of like nice passing curiosities that kind of sucked as games, like Pokemon Stadium. or Pokemon Rangers.
Of course, and while they cut back on their planned number of sales by the end of March or April, it also decreased their stocks.
Yeah, which is kind of stupid, but there was some hidden news in that report. Well, that like I don't hear anyone talking about, which validates my supposition that I made when we talked about it earlier this week. Which is when everyone was like, "Yeah, well, Metroid Prime development starting from scratch. It's going to take longer for that game to come out." But they haven't changed when they say that game's going to come out in their financial results.
In short, they didn't say when the date's coming.
Well, my supposition is that I think that game was. I think that they threw out what Namco Bandai worked on with Kensuke Tanabe and switched it over to Retro like last year. That's why we didn't see anything about that game. That's why we didn't see any gameplay at E3, because that would have been a great game to show off at last year's E3. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and if anything, I think we covered this last week, but I think this should be mentioned again that that we know Namco Bandai or is it Bandai, either way. We know them for fighting games, which is why we are happy with Super Smash Bros. 4. But if anything, they are not in the realm of experience when it comes to something like Metroid.
Well, they're two completely different things. Like Metroid,
they're two different flavors.
Well, I mean, you think Nintendo would have figured this out because, I mean, they did Team Ninja did that Metroid game from Other M, and that game doesn't really feel like a Metroid game, right?
Right.
I would say it's rare that Nintendo lets other people work on their stuff. We do have 3 certain results that nobody shall ever name, at least with good regards.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying it. Like more often than not, when Nintendo lets an outside party work on their games, they don't turn out well. I think I can only name 3 results where an outside party worked on a Nintendo IP and it turned out well. The 2 Link Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons games, which that same team then went on to make Kirby in the Amazing Mirror for the Game Boy Advance. And those are 3 really good games. But I can name you even more examples of Nintendo letting an outside party use their IPs and it being an absolute fucking disaster, like those Philips CDI games, like Hotel Mario, and those 3 Legend of Zelda games for the CD for the CDI.
I thought you wouldn't mention those.
And let's see what else. I mean, I'm gonna put Other M in that not good outside Nintendo section. Yeah, well, yeah, and the only reason I'm going to say that is because Other M, while not within itself a bad game, is not a good Metroid game. Like Other M is like the Star Wars prequels. It's like if you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to watch the prequels because the history, like expanding the story and the world, is interesting, but the actual films suck. You know what I mean?
For me, I actually consider the Prime series as its own continuity, and stick with the original Metroids 1 through 4.
Well, I mean that's the thing. The Prime series isn't its own continuity. It's a spinoff, but it's a prequel. Like the entire Prime series takes place before the original Metroid. No, it takes place between the original Metroid and Super Metroid. So basically, the original Metroid, aka Metroid Zero Mission, is like, at the end where Samus destroys the pirates, defeats Mother Brain, takes out a whole bunch of Metroids, and then leaves the planet. From there, like between that and Super Metroid, all the shit that occurs in Metroid Prime happens, right? And then Super Metroid happens. And then from Super Metroid, you go to
Metroid 4 aka Metroid Fusion.
No. Then Metroid 2 happens. Then Super Metroid.
Okay.
Then Metroid Fusion. And that's it. Because Other M, oh god, I hate that game. I hate that game so much.
It's in the league of the trilogy of Zelda. Ugh.
You mean the CDI trilogy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't really like this game. No, I never want to see it again. No, never again.
It's like remembering your first states and how south it went.
Similar. You have any thoughts about this, Kenoshi?
I don't think Other M is as bad as people think it is. And
I mean, like I said, I don't think it's the worst game ever. I just don't think it's a very good Metroid game.
I mean, the only downside of that game was its storytelling, because you know that Sakamoto tried to make sure that for the English release it stuck as closely to the original translation as possible, rather than making a few couple of changes to make it more accessible for the US.
I think the problem with the game was that Sakamoto tried to fix something that wasn't broken. Like in his head, in a lot of creators do this. I mean, George Lucas did the same thing with the Star Wars, with the original Star Wars trilogy. It's like, well, there was all this shit that was wrong with it, but the flaws, the rough edges are what made it what it was. And when you go back and try and fix the rough edges, you actually make it worse because you over fiddle with it and make it worse. Because one of the flaws of the original Metroid was that, like, the technology made it so that you couldn't really have voice acting or anything like that. So in order for you to tell the story, it had to be done through environmental storytelling. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like you play Super Metroid and you get some text in the beginning of the game, but more or less it's just a lot of environmental storytelling, right? Like when you go to the tropical area, you see these giant worms in the background, right? And then you go through the same area later on after you've done something, and they're in chrysalises. And then you come through the same area again later on, those crystals are open. Well, now if you're paying attention to your environment, you're like, shit, something's gone down, something's happened, something's changed. Something, especially when there's a large chrysalis that's now open, and that means something big has gone through a metamorphosis. And even Metroid Samus Returns, like, one of the big tells of that you were going to have a tougher fight going ahead was that basically you would reach a point in the game where you'd come across the cast-off husks of a Metroid that had metamorphosed. And you're like, okay, if it's like one metamorphosis, not that bad. But once you start getting to like third stage, fourth stage, fifth stage, gamma, it's like, oh shit. And you had no voice acting. You just realized, okay, this context clue tells me that some shit's about to go down. Like the end of Metroid Metroid 2, Samus Returns, where you're fighting your way to the Metroid Queen, and you run across all these new eggs that have been laid and newly hatched, and you realize, okay, Like, if you're a young kid playing this game, you're just, oh, I'm just fighting my way through, blah, 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 blah. But if you're an older gamer, you realize, oh shit, I'm fighting my way to the queen. And the queen, like, I still bar none. The queen in Metroid 2 Samus Returns, still one of the toughest fucking bosses in that franchise. Just conceptually, just very tough. Because, I mean, like, in other Metroid games, you're facing someone who's motivated by greed or, you know, revenge, or they're just batshit crazy. But the Metroid Queen, she's just trying to protect her baby. her last
creations.
Baby. The last baby. That's of her species. That's some pretty tough shit right there. You know? Not to mention she's really fucking tough because she has like one weak spot, and if you don't hit it, you're gonna take damage. But anyway, so yeah, and then they do, you know, Other M, and they get rid of like 75% of the shit that makes a Metroid game a Metroid game. You know, trying to quote unquote streamline the experience. Well, you don't have to backtrack, and you don't really have to find a lot of stuff. And we made combat faster. It's like combat was never the strong point of a Metroid game.
It's about exploration and discovery.
Yeah, it's basically Metroid.
And lots of backtracking.
Well, I mean, the backtracking becomes a necessary part because that's part of the gameplay design. Right? It's kind of like Legend of Zelda, right? Like old school traditional Legend of Zelda, where you're like, let's say you're going someplace and you realize I can't get over there because you don't have the skill or ability or item in order to get over there. So you have to go and explore until you find that item. Then you come back and you go across whatever barrier or bypass whatever thing you had to bypass, right? That's part of the gameplay design because that's how you measure character progression in an adventure game. Is you go exploring, you find something, you come back, and now you're more badass because you have what you need in order to move on past what used to be an insurmountable barrier. And they got rid of that in Other M to the detriment of the gameplay of the design of a Metroid game. Now, Other M, like I said, isn't a bad game within of itself, but it's not a very good Metroid game. And it doesn't even feel like a Metroid game, really. It's, you know, it's a nice spin-off, but I don't think it's not a good Metroid game. You'd think Nintendo would have learned their fucking lesson after that debacle, but nope. But apparently this time when they had to cancel that shit, maybe they figured it out this time. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe that's not a smart move. So, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, their final results just basically say that it's not being canceled from when they think it's going to come out. So, at least not yet. So, I'm guessing that, you know, it probably, like I said, they probably knew this game was like this last year.
Yeah, so what do you think they're just going to do a quick flip, or is this something that there was decisions were made?
Well, I don't think it's a quick flip. I think the beginning of last year, they realized that game was not turning out the way it should, and I think that's why Retro's been so fucking quiet the last year and a half. I think that's why. Like I think Kensuke Tanabe took it over to that team over at Namco Bandai for like 6 months, and they realized this shit's not working. Because, like, here's the thing, okay? Metroid Prime games have a very distinct feel. You know what I mean? They have a very distinct feel, and like if something doesn't feel like that, you're gonna notice it. You know? It's like It's like if you go to your favorite greasy spoon, right? And you go there because you want that greasy ass burger with, you know, sauteed onions, cheese, the buns that are kind of soft with a little bit of mayonnaise that They just spread thinly and then toast on the griddle so that it's nice and toasty. And they slap it between the thing with a slice of tomato, maybe a little bit of ketchup, maybe a little bit of mayonnaise, a little bit of mustard, and with some fries. Like, you don't eat there every week or even every month, but every 3-4 months, you just want that greasy ass burger experience. And then one day you go there and they're like, "Oh no, this is a kale burger, and this is quinoa. This is a quinoa burger. Like, what the fuck is this shit? I want what you've been serving for the last 7-8 years, motherfucker." That's basically. I think that's basically what they were getting. Like, it's like, this doesn't feel like a Metroid Prime game. It doesn't look like a Metroid Prime game. We need to go to the people that made Metroid Prime to really get a Metroid Prime game. And I just don't know why they didn't do that in the first place. I don't,
Likely because they wanted to try to reach out and expand their horizons.
And the burnout experience doesn't make sense when the last Metroid Prime game came out, 12 years ago? Like, that argument that retro might get burnt out doesn't make sense when the last game came out 12 years ago, is what I'm saying. Okay? So I don't want to. That is not a valid excuse.
Because they would rather want them to work on another Nintendo product, pre-existing Nintendo IP, or their own IP.
I think could.
Depends.
So, continuing on with the financial reports, Nintendo had mentioned that Mario Kart Tour has been delayed to summer 2019.
Makes sense. It seems like Nintendo is starting to use these smartphone games as kind of like placeholders for when they don't have a game coming out for the 3DS or the Switch. So they can drop one of those to kind of make up for a big game not coming out. Which seems kind of cheap to me, but I mean, like, okay, the gamer in me says that seems kind of cheap, but financially it makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the gamer in me is like, man, I don't give a fuck about no smartphone game, but the business person to me is like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So, like I predicted, and they say this in their own financial results. Their cardboard play sets didn't do all that well, except for the holidays, which basically tells me that parents are treating them like a nice passing attractive toy for their kids for the holiday season. Which is what I expected, because I think most gamers are like, you want me to pay what? I think at launch they were like $130, $140 for a cardboard playset. Fuck out of my face with that.
I was gonna say,
now it's
$80 to $90 was the price that they started out as.
No, the highest tier ones were like $130, $140. Now you can get them on sale for like $60. Like $60, $70, $60, $50, like because they aren't selling as well, so they're like, shit, this is taking up shelf space. Let's discount them and get them out the fucking door. Which I can't blame them, because you're paying you're paying $100 for what is essentially a shittier version of of those paper craft sets that were really popular in the mid '90s. Those paper craft sets that like you get in the mid '90s that were themed, like when they did the re-release for Star Wars and Indiana Jones, where you could get like, hey, look, it's a Super Star Destroyer paper craft set, but those are sturdier, because like some of the higher end ones of those that were like $150, you could like had like electronics in them that you could turn on lights and they light up and shit, and had sound effects and shit like that.
And now Nintendo Labo Variety Cake is now part of the 20 Nintendo Switch titles that reached 1 million units.
Yeah, that's cool. So
12 of them being first parties, while the other 8 are third parties.
So a million suckers bought a cardboard playset. That's cool.
Well, it sold more than.
Keep
It sold
insulting
more
it.
than the.
I'm being facetious. It's that they're suckers, but
Sorry,
that there were a million suckers. But
probably sold more than the PlayStation Portable.
yeah, but that's
PlayStation Portable with the PlayStation.
yeah, but they're even suckers who even saw that was a bad deal. They're like, with the Labo, I mean, that's some fun you can have until it breaks. But I mean, that's fun that you had until it broke. The PlayStation Classic, segueing nicely into another. Can you believe this shit? The PlayStation Classic, is just. I mean, oh my god! I went to a store and they had a stack of those shits just lying there.
I saw an image of a large stack of PS1 classics at a Fry's Electronics store.
Well, I physically went to my Walmart and saw them on sale for $50. They're $10 off what they normally should be retailing as, which tells me that they really aren't selling. And Sony, this is my can you believe this shit? Sony, what the fuck were you thinking putting this shit out there half-assed? But this kind of validates my belief that the original PlayStation, one of the most fucking overrated consoles ever. Yeah, I said it. And the reason I say this is because, like, you put 20 games on there, like 10 of them are the PAL region versions of games instead of the NTSC. So, like, basically, it's the shittier versions of games to run on. It's just,
and that's before mentioning that you could actually debug yourself into the better versions. As in that you could actually change which version that some of them are in.
I mean, that's true, but not for the PlayStation. The only way you can change which version of the game to have is to hack the system, which, considering it uses an open source emulation, open source emulator, you can go in there and hack it yourself. But here's the thing. When you buy these little mini consoles, most people are not getting them because they want to hack it. Most people are getting them because they want to just be able to have some old games. They don't have the original system anymore, and they just want to play those old games just a little bit, And this kind of fucked people over. We have some comments here in the comment section. Hello from the lazy one. He says he doesn't mind Metroid Prime being delayed. He has games to play. And he also says, but Red, these gamers are willing to buy cardboard disc cutouts. So yeah, you must be talking about how these dumb bastards bought a cardboard playset for $120. And Trinell83 says, what up, the lazy one? Hello, both of you. If you have any comments, questions, leave them in the comment section. We'll get to them later on. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you guys have any thoughts about the PlayStation Mini Classic, whatever the fuck it's called?
Nope.
PlayStation Classic Mini. And, oh boy. They try, and yet they screw up.
Well, the thing is, it was just some shit that they threw together. There was no real thought put into it. I'm just gonna give you 3 suggestions they could have done that would have made it better. If the PlayStation Mini, instead of it being like what they called it, if it was a little mini console that could connect to the internet, that you could basically like put a standard mini SD card or SD mini card with an adapter in there, and basically be like, okay, it can also connect to our PlayStation Store You can download games to it. It comes preloaded with 20 games, but you can download games onto the SD
Onto
card.
the system.
That would be cool. Or if they had different like flavors of PlayStation Minis, like different colors, like PlayStation Mini Red, which would have like fighting games, just fighting games on it. PlayStation Mini Blue, which had RPGs. PlayStation Mini Green that has like racing games. PlayStation Mini White, which has, I don't know, like platformers or whatever. That would have been a smarter move than the shit that they did, which was just throw some old games. Some of them are good, but the problem is that most of the really high quality PlayStation games have better versions of other consoles right now.
I was saying they're third party, and they want.
Yeah, they aren't PlayStation exclusives. Like you can get Final Fantasy VII on PC and download a mod that makes it look much better than it ever looked on the PlayStation.
Yep. It's called Tifa's Bootstrap, unless there's something else out there.
I don't know what it's called. I'm just saying that there are mods for it that make it more playable, more interesting. Adds, like, you can add new content to it. My point is that this was clearly, and I didn't get to my third suggestion they could have done, or they could have actually just had a better game lineup on the little mini. Because, I mean, yeah, Final Fantasy VII is nice and all, but they could have had Final Fantasy IX. They could have had Breath of Fire 3, which is a much better game than. I mean, it doesn't look as graphically cool
as the others,
as Final Fantasy VII, or 8 with those 3D graphics, but it looks. I mean, personally, I like Breath of Fire 3 over Breath of Fire 4. Although Breath of Fire 4 does have slightly better battle music. Once again, for those of you watching, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave questions in the comment section. We'll get to those later on. But yeah, I think ultimately it failed miserably. And I'm not surprised. I did a video earlier this week talking about how Nintendo could come out with a Nintendo 64 Mini and it would probably kick the PlayStation Mini's ass. Even though the N64 had a much smaller library, like a library that was ultimately like a fourth of the size.
Yeah.
Still probably have a better quality selection of games. Because the thing is that the N64 had a smaller library, but the library was more iconic.
Sad, isn't it?
Not really. I mean,
it's one of those things that says that the number of quality games overbeats the quantity of games.
Well, I mean, it's like this, okay? If you go to a restaurant, right, and like if you own a business, and people talk about this, if you go to a restaurant and you go and you look at the menu, right? Like some restaurants have huge menus, but there's no way every single item on that menu, like it's expensive to have all the items on that menu in your freezer, most of which are never going to get used. Because generally speaking, people are going to only order from a restaurant 3 or 4 things, and that's it, right? Like a really good restaurant will have a menu that maybe has 11, 10 items that they do really, 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 really well. That they can keep in stock, that they know how to stock, it's cheap for them to buy, and they can upsell them to you and still turn a profit, so everyone gets paid. Like, so in this, and that's why the N64, even though it had a smaller library than the PlayStation, made more money than the PlayStation, because the games that they did have sold really well. Like Mario 64 sold really well. Zelda 64 sold really well. People went crazy for Pokemon Stadium, and Pokemon Snap, and Pokemon Stadium 2, even though the Pokemon Stadium games suck.
Yeah.
They aren't good.
Did they went?
Yeah, I remember. I remember as a kid playing. Friends playing those games for hours. It's kind of like, what the heck? What are you guys doing?
I stand by that statement. Pokemon Stadium sucks.
Yeah.
I'll fight you for it.
What?
If people went crazy over F-Zero X.
Yeah. F-Zero X, Star Fox 64. Like, the N64 had a smaller library, but the games that were, like, okay, the multiplats that were on the N64 and the other systems, like, a lot of the multiplats were better on the N64, like Gauntlet Legend. The definitive Gauntlet Legends of the 5th/6th gen, because there's also a Gauntlet Legends on the Dreamcast, but it's just an arcade port. The definitive version of Gauntlet Legends is on the N64. It has more content. It has it has more content. It has more levels. It doesn't have as many characters as the Dreamcast one because it has some additional characters from arcade. But aside from that, it's like the best version of the game's on the N64, and yet it was on a little shitty cartridge.
Yep.
And yet it's like the best version of the game. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of really good games for the system. There's like it would be very like the library is small enough that you can pick really good games from the system to do a mini collection, and no one would be like, these games. You could find some hidden gems that are really good, like Snowboard Kids. That's a really good racing game, except instead of carts, they're on snowboards and shit. But it's like Diddy Kong Racing, except with snowboards. And it's really good, and it's from Atlas. It's really fucking good. Like, you know, the N64 was a good party console, so people can remember going to people's houses and playing it, you know, for Smash 64 and Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing and F-Zero.
You'll still, I mean, at least from back when I was in college, which was around 2009 when I started going, like, I walked around and I still saw people with N64s.
Oh yeah,
up in their dormitory. I didn't see a lot of PlayStations. Like original PlayStation. I saw N64s.
I brought my N64 to college, and yes, I did. I played the shit out of my N64 in college. I played a lot of Gauntlet Legends with my friends. Well, not really friends, because my roommate. We're gonna get raw here, but it's my podcast, so fuck it. I had a roommate my first year in college who, let's say, he loved himself too much.
TMI.
While I was in the room with him, which made it worse.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. It's not that bad because of that, I was able to basically fake that not really fake, because that's really fucking disturbing. And I got a single, so. But once I got my single, I would invite like my other dorm mates into my room, and we'd just play N64. And I had a Wii too, but N64.
I mean, a lot of people played the original Super Smash Brothers on the N64 back.
Yeah, we play that. The 3 games that would be on rotation were Perfect Dark, Diddy Kong / Mario Kart, and Smash 64.
Yeah.
Someone angry about that? What?
No. But if anything, that's a small one.
I mean, I had other games for the system as well. Plus, I had my EverDrive, which basically, at that time, it was the Ultra, like the Ultra something, Ultra 128. Ultra 128 is basically the EverDrive 2.0, where it plays all the other shit that N64 that the normal EverDrive can't. So, like, I uploaded, like, all my games onto that thing, all my other games, so I didn't have to carry a whole bunch of fucking cartridges around.
What is that noise?
Sorry, I'm just cooking something.
Okay, then. But anyway, yeah, it was ridiculous. I didn't like it. But yeah, N64, it would be very easy for someone to do, like, an N64. It would be very hard for someone to do the PlayStation Mini is the PlayStation, because it has such a huge library and such an eclectic library, it would be hard. Like, you're not going to make anyone happy with the game selection. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If anything, the number of games that you have at a time, it kind of will rub some people the wrong way because, well, there's a difference between. I was gonna say there's a difference between having quality games and having many games to work with. And I'm not sure how some people take it because some like quantity as in variety, while some like quality even though it's a few games.
I mean, there are some good games on the PlayStation. Don't get it twisted. Don't be like, oh man, like I'm not gonna hate on the PlayStation just because the PlayStation.
There is quality on there, but how many of them are there? That's the question. Because in a sense, if you get the best of both worlds of a high number of games that are quality, then you actually got a hit.
Let's see. Trinell83 has some comments. He says, could they combine both of what Red said regarding the PlayStation Mini, have the standard model, but on the PlayStation Store separate them based on the color scheme, red presented or red for fighting, etc.? That'd be cool. I mean, like, here's the thing. Either way, giving people a choice, because, like I said, the PlayStation has such a huge library that you can't just pick 20 games. Because, I mean, if you look at the list of PlayStation Mini games, here, I'll pull it up because I don't remember it right off the bat. But some of those games, like, the selection is kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, here, let me look at it. PlayStation Classic.
They didn't even try. They didn't even try.
Here's the list of games on the PlayStation Classic. Some of them are, like, okay, Battle Arena Toshinden.
I heard that game was rotten.
No, it's not bad, but I mean, okay, the go-to 2D game, the go-to 3D fighting game for the PlayStation is Tekken.
Yeah.
Like, they would have been better with Tekken 2. Okay, like Tekken 2 and Tekken 3. They have Tekken 3, but Tekken 2 instead of Battle Arena Toshinden. Cool Borders 2, Destruction Derby, Final Fantasy VII, it had to be there, even though that's not even a really good Final Fantasy game. It's basic. I mean, it's basic. Basically, Final Fantasy VII is Final Fantasy V with a slightly better story, and no class abilities. Grand Theft Auto. I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. The Grand Theft Auto before Grand Theft Auto 3
came out on the screen, and it had its rocky start.
Well, originally it was on PC, but Grand Theft Auto before it, like, until it became 3D with Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto was kind of just meh. So, who cares? Intelligent Cube, never heard of that fucking game. Jumpin' Flash is a very niche title that's really fun, but most people have never fucking heard of it. Metal Gear Solid, okay, that had to be there. I don't really care that much for it, but a lot of people love it. Driller, I guess that's Mr. Driller, I guess. Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. Cool game. I mean, but it's not for everyone. I mean, it's basically it's basically the next generation of those flashback Prince of Persia games where, like, every move you make is very deliberate and you have to get through, like, all these traps and shit. It's a very tough title. Okay, Rayman. I mean, that's not even like the best Rayman game though.
Yeah.
Like, Rayman 64 is better.
I was going to say
Rayman 2. 64.
Yeah, Rayman 64 is a better game, yeah. Even Rayman 3 is better.
That's the weird thing. I only know Rayman for that game, not the 3-dimensional ones.
I mean, I'm just saying it's better. Like there's better. Like, literally, the PlayStation version is the shittiest version of that game. Even because Rayman was originally made to be on the Saturn and the 3DO. And then when they saw that the 3DO was failing, they jumped it all they jumped it over to PlayStation. So for those of you Nintendo fans who are like, I can't believe Ubisoft did that. Yeah, they've been doing it for years. They're cheating bastards. What they are. Resident Evil Director's Cut. I mean, that's cool and all, but like the best Resident Evil game of the 5th gen was Resident Evil 2 on the 64. So I don't know.
Kind of a low blow there, aren't you?
Well, I mean, I had it for the 64, and I thought what they were able to do, like it put to bed that bullshit rumor. Well, they couldn't. That Capcom originally said we couldn't fit that game on the N64. Yeah, about that. And then they released the game, and aside from the compressed audio, full game's there on the system.
Yeah.
So, Revelations Persona, the first Persona game, Ridge Racer 4, who cares? Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, not a Street Fighter on here. Like, no Street Fighter 2 Anniversary Edition, no Street Fighter Alpha, just Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo.
If you ask me, that's not a bad game. So
I mean, it's not
doesn't
bad,
have that.
but I mean, if you're gonna have a Street Fighter game on there, wouldn't you have like a standard Street Fighter game and not Puzzle Fighter?
Yeah, that was the thing I was gonna say, that it's not a bad game, but it will remind you that Street Fighter is not on there.
At least it's not a Street Fighter EX game.
Even that would be better than Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. Siphon Filter, okay, that's cool. Siphon Filter is a Sony-owned. It was like their answer to Metal Gear, and I'm gonna let you on a little secret. Siphon Filter is better than Metal Gear.
People have been wanting a new Siphon Filter for years.
No, Siphon Filter is a good game, yeah. And for one thing, the main character isn't a total and complete asshole like Solid Snake. Tekken 3, okay, had to be there. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, okay, that's a good game, had to be there. Twisted Metal, I mean, what about Twisted Metal 2? That's a better game. Like, why the first Twisted Metal? Like, the first Twisted Metal is okay, but Twisted Metal 2 is so much better. Graphically, it looks better. And Wild Arms. I mean, Wild Arms 2 is better. Like, why is the first Wild Arms? Wild Arms 2 is a better game. Fuck.
They didn't try.
Yeah, they just threw some shit together. Like, there's no Tony Hawk. There's no Suikoden. There's no Chrono Cross, even though that game sucks. There's no Xenogears.
You want Chrono Cross, even though it blows.
What about Brave Fencer Musashi? That's a good game.
What about for nostalgic reasons, I actually really don't think this is a good platformer. The Croc games. The first one was pretty bad. The second one they improved.
Croc, The Legend of Gabos. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, the first one had those shitty tank controls, but the second one they fixed that a little bit.
I only played the second one on PC a long time ago.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not that bad.
I mean, it would have been better than some of the stuff that they had on that list, though.
It's just not. It was just some shit that felt like they just threw some shit together, and they were just like, "Oh man, like they'll eat that shit up because they're dumbass." I mean, that's basically what it felt like.
Yeah.
And Trinell83 has another comment. Wouldn't the 64 Mini have to come with 4 controllers though? No, but I mean, Nintendo could reissue N64 controllers. The technology, they could make them cheaper. Because really, I mean, that's the one flaw of the N64 Mini was that, like, N64 games don't feel right to play without an N64 controller. It just they're made for the N64. Like playing Mario 64 with a classic controller on the Wii Virtual Console just doesn't feel right without an N64 controller. It just.
I don't know. I think that was the worst controller, but that's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, I think the N64 controller, for certain games, like for the Mario Party game, it sucked. But for 3D games, like platformers and games that that were built around using that controller, it really works. Like Star Fox 64 does not feel right without the N64 controller in your hand, which is why I didn't get Star Fox 64 for the 3DS, because I'm like, why would I want to play?
It's not the same, I know, but
why
if
would I
anything,
want to play
it's
the
not
inferior
bad.
version of this game? They're like, well, it's got online multiplayer. I don't give a shit.
And that's the one thing I didn't think about.
You know.
And besides, wasn't the reason that multiplayer wasn't installed into Star Fox Zero was because it was
Boring.
boredom.
Because anyone who played Star Fox 64 knows that when you played multiplayer, it just devolved into you fly around, and then when people get behind you, you just use the U-turn or the loop-de-loop, so that until someone could find the bomb and then use it to get some basic damage. But the bomb didn't do nearly as much damage as you think it should, and it just.
I was about to say the lock-on laser blast would be your primary shot.
But even then, that didn't do a lot of damage if you knew what you were doing. It's just like it just didn't do that much damage. Trinell83, how many games should be put in a 64 mini? What type of game should be on it? Would obscure titles like Mischief Makers and Sin and Punishment be on it? Actually, if you subscribe to my channel and go to my recently uploaded videos, I did a video talking about how many. I said 30, and I have Mischief Makers and Sin and Punishment on it from Treasure. Personally, I said 30 games should be on the N64 mini, but really, if they really wanted to kick it up a notch, 64.
Oh, you cheese!
No, 64 would be perfect, and then you could have all of the Nintendo first party and second party games that the 64 was known for. Like you could have your Majora's Mask, your Ocarina of Time, your Mario 64, your Mario Kart 64,
I know, but
your Diddy Kong Racing.
I was saying that you're cheesing because that was actually a great number to call on with that one.
That would be great. Like literally, if Nintendo said we are selling an N64 mini for $150 and it comes with 64 games and two brand new made N64 controllers that go with the system. They're USB, so you can also use them with your computer or your Switch or whatever. Like, I would be down with that because for me, the N64 is like my nostalgia console. The N64 is the console that I got for Christmas, like, in like 96, and it was under the tree, and I opened it, I was like, oh shit, and I lost my mind, and it came with Mario 64, and that's the only game I had for like 2 months until February. February 7th was my birthday, and I played the shit out of Mario 64, and then for my birthday, I got, Zelda, Ocarina of Time. And, I mean, I played the shit out of those two games. I played Ocarina of Time so much that I'm tired of that game. It's a great game, don't get me wrong, but I'm fucking, I'm mad that when they got N64 Zelda Ocarina of Time for the 3DS, they still didn't let you skip those shitty fucking cutscenes. It's like, look, I know, the great big future guy. Get with it. Shut the fuck up, K-Bora. Come on, get with it, man. I know, I got it.
And I could bet you that you at least got caught in one of his loops once.
No, I just got, because you can't skip the cutscene, so you gotta.
I was saying you got caught in one of his long-winded cutscenes, as in you.
No, that's the thing. You can't.
Then you see that.
You can't skip the cutscenes. That's my problem with Nintendo doing reissues, is that they don't fix basic shit that needs to be fixed sometimes. And like here's the thing, in Twilight Princess, like I've played that game multiple times, but a brilliant thing that they have in that, press the select button, you can skip fucking cutscenes, so get to the gameplay. It's like, I have something, shut the fuck up, I know what you're gonna say, I've played this game like 100 times now. Ganondorf laughing. I know. I fought the Master Sword. You get the Triforce, it splits, it goes to 3 people. I get it. Fuck it. Okay. Shut the fuck up, you balding bastard. He's like, yeah, I'm the evil king. I have the Triforce of power. Can't fix that bald spot, though.
Oh! They're like, shut up and let me kill you.
I'm like, dude, fix. Look. You got the Triforce of power, and you think wearing that jewel in that bald spot's gonna cover the fact that you're going bald. You think you can cover that shit up? I'm not bald. Yeah, whatever.
I'm
You can
trying
snap
to
your
keep
fingers.
in here.
You can curse people, turn people into monsters, but can't fix that bald spot. I'd be mad. I'd be really pissed off. Like, all this power can't fix a bald spot.
So, are we gonna move on to Capcom's #1 game on Metacritic?
That's right. Capcom, another can you believe this shit? Capcom is the #1 publisher on Metacritic, which proves that Metacritic doesn't mean shit.
So
I thought it was EA being above Nintendo was.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, Capcom being #1 is kind of bullshit, but EA being above Nintendo is even more. Can you believe this shit? You know?
yeah,
I mean,
same thing. I consider that there was some bribe money put under the table for some of those reviews.
No, I mean, I don't think it was bribery because, I mean, here's the thing, okay? It's a
I said
number
for
game.
some.
Now, Metacritic is all about numbers, okay? It's all about numbers. Like, okay, the problem with EA, the problem with like Nintendo when the Switch first launched, we're launching a new game every month, right? If it wasn't a new game, it was an enhanced port of a Wii U title, right? Every month they were dropping a new game. They did not do that this year. I think they put out maybe 4 big titles this year. 3 of them in the last 3 months of the year. Okay? So, you know, and Nintendo is still kind of a niche, even though their console is selling close to Wii numbers. Like, I think maybe 10% below the Wii. It's still not like...
It's still not gangbusters, right?
It's still not as saturated as, you know, as ubiquitous as you might think. So, you know, and EA, I mean, EA is a big publisher. They put out games that a lot of people buy. Like, I guarantee some dumbasses went and bought Madden last year, and FIFA. I guarantee it, because that's what people do. They trade in 2 or 3 games and get Madden or FIFA every year over year.
Now, Capcom being #1 on the list, it has something to do with Monster Hunter World, Mega Man 11, Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition.
Yeah, basically Capcom put out games as apologies for the fuck up they did earlier. Like Monster Hunter World, I played it. It doesn't really appeal to me. But then again, Monster Hunter has never really appealed to me. Like, I'm not like, oh my god, I have to. Yeah, it's too grindy for me. It's just too damn grindy.
Yeah, the only way I'm getting into Monster Hunter World is through stories.
Not even that. It's just like, okay, and stories is a spinoff. The whole mainline Monster Hunter games work like this. Okay, you go out and you hunt monsters, and you attack them in certain ways so that they'll drop materials that you can take them back to your base or town or whatever city, so that you can make better equipment, so you can hunt more powerful monsters, so that they can drop materials, so that you can get better items, and repeat ad infinitum until you get to the end. Now that is fucking, like, I've already done that with Phantasy Star Online. Like, I don't want to do that again. You know what I mean?
The monsters can take about an hour to kill off.
Yeah, some of the tougher monsters, not an hour. If you have a good team of people with you, like 30 minutes, but still, it's just really fucking grindy. And I mean, I'm already in RPGs, which can be really fucking grindy. So, you know, I don't want to play another game that's really fucking grindy. But I know some people love it, so, you know, God bless them. You know. So then they did Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition. I heard that's the definitive version of Street Fighter 5. I don't know, because I literally went to my friend's house and played Street Fighter 5 when it first launched for like 30 minutes. I said, this is shit. And I haven't played it since. I was like, this is some bullshit. Like, Capcom's like, we can fix it. I'm like, I have never had a Street Fighter game that was broken at launch.
And that's one of the things that would be problematic to forget. A Street Fighter game disastrous at its launch.
Except for the first Street Fighter. Except for the very first Street Fighter. But that kind of gets a pass because it's like one of the first 2D fighting games. So, you know, like, no one really knew what the fuck they were doing. You know, it's kind of like the first time you have sex. You don't really... you know, like, if it's not that good, don't act surprised. You know, but Street Fighter V, there is no excuse for that game being in the condition it was at launch.
Well, what? Who's telling you that the arcade edition is the definitive edition?
Well, they're just saying that it has a lot of fixes and things that should have been there at launch. You know, it's like one of those things where this should have been here in the beginning, you know, kind of like how Nintendo did with the Switch version of Mario Kart 8. You know, They're like, yeah, look at all this. Like, this shit should have been here in the beginning, on the Wii U game. But whatever.
Yeah, they did that pretty dirty with Mario Kart 8.
And that's why I haven't bought that game. Like, fuck it if you get my money, bitch. after I spent over $100 on the different seasons for the Wii U version, and kiss my black ass if they think I'm gonna buy the Switch version. They can kiss every hole I got, except the mouth. But anyway, yeah. No, it's no. It's I mean, and to be fair, the arcade version of Street Fighter 4 was really good. And, you know, the arcade version of Street Fighter V is probably really good. But, I mean, you know, like Capcom put out some games that people like Street Fighter RE7 they put out last year. And that got a high critical response. So, I mean, numbers-wise, I could understand Capcom. You know, Capcom put out some notable games last year that scored really well on Metacritic. So the people, like, and that's a critical reception, not just from reviewers, which could get paid off, but also from, like, just Joe Blow consumer. Like, the people who bought those games liked them. So I can't argue against people liking what they bought. So...
Then we move on to Mega Man 11.
Yeah, which, I mean, I have that game. It's pretty good. It's a little slow. It moves a little slow for a Mega Man game, but...
Yeah.
I would say that it would be even slower if you could abuse more of the powers, but then again, they do give you a limit on that.
Yeah, but once you play that game, you can get, like, once you get enough bolts and shit, you can get upgrades from Eddie that, like, lets you slow down time to the point where it's just fucking ridiculous. I mean, it's the game. I mean, look, here's the thing: Mega Man 11 is fine and dandy. I just wish it wasn't as slow. It didn't play as slowly. Like, it just has a very kind of like Mega Man games up until that point, like, had a kind of not like they aren't as high as speed based as Mega Man X games, but there was still a certain level of, like, speed that you could put into it. Mega Man 11 feels kind of like a bit slower and more plotting than what you get in a normal Mega Man game, but fuck it, you know.
What about Resident Evil 2? Have you guys played that yet?
I mean, it's RE2. People love that game. It's better in almost every way compared to
the first one.
The first game has a better translation, better enemies, better combat system. Like, everything's just been more refined. So
I mean, you don't even have to worry about having tank controls.
Yeah, and I mean, really, they should. Like, to be fair, they remade Resident Evil 2 before on the GameCube, if I remember correctly. Was it GameCube? Whatever. So, I mean, now it's just, like, an even better remake. Like, Capcom just loves remaking shit, so... like, they should change their name from Capcom to Remake the company. Make a new game, shit.
Remake. And people are falling in love with Mr. X.
What?
In the RE2 remake.
I guess I don't really care.
So now we could, now that's out of the way, we could talk about EA's continued displacement.
Well, I mean, the bullshit is that basically they put like EA is higher than
Nintendo and
Nintendo on the. And I mean, I think I said earlier the only reason that is because they released games that people bought and I guess liked.
Which most of those would be the yearlies, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And here I take it that Bethesda's continued downward spiral is also on their placement in the Metacritic list.
Oh, no. The reason Bethesda's on there is because they released a patch that broke the game Fallout 76 even more than it was. Like shit that was fixed with other patches, they released a patch which broke it again. It just like Fallout 76 is like that
patch that shatters what you patched up already.
Fallout 76 is the Steve Urkel of the game.
Yeah, who they got coding that game? Like 10-year-old schoolgirls? Like what the heck is going on over there?
Well, I'll tell you who coded that game. Bethesda basically handed off the coding to a new studio, and they were like, make this shit work. With this old ass engine that's like 15 years old. No, older than that. 20 years old at this point. Because it's built off of the backbone of the engine that they use is the Gamebryo engine, which they bought from the people who used to own Fallout, Vigil Interactive, Virgil.
I think 10-year-old schoolgirls could do a better job with that game.
I don't know about that, but it's definitely really bad. It's that game is like that old 20-something-year-old engine at this point, because 2019, 20 years old, 20-year-old engine, and it literally like I don't care how much you update an old engine. If you take an old fucking car, okay, an old car from like 20 years ago, and like you abuse it, parts. You abuse it, you abuse the shit out of that engine, making it do things it was never designed to do. And then you act surprised that the car is breaking down on your ass. You deserve whatever happens to you.
And not even some partial part replacement can fix all that BS that you put it through.
You just got to get... And here's the thing. If you get a car from 20 years ago, even if you keep it in perfect condition, it's not going to be as capable of a vehicle as a car that came out this year or even 5 years ago, because you're always going to have incremental or in some cases exponential things are going to become more efficient, better designed. You know, it's just, you know, and people like I hear people who take some coding courses in college, or that may be their major. It's not the engine. It's how you use it, and that to an extent that's true. But at a certain point, there's a reason people aren't coding in assembly language anymore. Okay.
Well, Java is almost extinct.
Well, I know people probably still use that. For the next,
they still use it. It's just, you know, people use it. Like
people still use it for the next 10 or 15 years because there's still a lot of
Java.
There's still a lot of smaller devices that Java is really useful for.
Yeah.
But no one's using assembly language. Like the language that computers used in 1982, no one's using that anymore. No one uses assembly language anymore. Why the like? Like people have upgraded to better computer languages, more efficient.
Well, people are still.
Has also no longer has support anymore.
So why the fuck? The only people who still use assembly language are hobbyists who work on really fucking old computers. But for people who use this shit professionally, no, they're using new shit. So why the fuck?
Pascal, which I think is probably even older.
So why aren't people using new fucking language? Why?
Because people nostalgia for the old stuff over the new stuff because how they think the old stuff is better.
No, I mean, why won't Bethesda just invest in a new fucking engine? They have the money. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They have the money to develop a new engine.
I mean, why not Unreal Engine? I mean, I guess they can make their own engine, but
because it's
cheaper. Pretty cheaper.
Because it's cheaper to use your own engine. Because then you don't have to pay out licensing fees.
Yeah, that's
or share your profit. It's kind of like it's cheaper for you to it's cheaper for you to cook your own food than to go out. Like it's cheaper for me to go and make my own buffalo wings than for me to go to a store or to order them from a restaurant and do it. Now, time wise, you know, it takes about an hour for me to make buffalo wings the way I make them because I don't fry them because fuck that.
Frying is bad for you?
No, it's just I don't like to use a lot of oil.
It's a preference.
If I'm gonna fry something, I'm gonna use it for something like that, like is gonna be really good fried. Like fried buffalo wings really don't do that much for me. The way I cook my buffalo wings is I steam them for like I steam them first, which causes the fat that's naturally in the chicken wing to come out and glisten on the surface. And then I put them in the oven and roast them off in the oven, which causes that fat the chicken fat to naturally cook them. And then I toss them in whatever
sauce that you desire.
Sauce I desire. And then I put them back in the oven for another 5 or 10 minutes to get that. And then I toss them again. And that's how I make my buffalo wings. So they taste just as good as fried because technically they did fry, but I didn't have to use a lot of oil to do it. So. Just the chicken fat, which is delicious.
Do you make your own homemade sauce, or do you?
I make for the buffalo sauce. If I'm going traditional, I just get Frank's Red Hot, and then you add a little bit of butter to that, and then you melt it in the microwave. But I've also made my own sauces. I make my own blue cheese dressing because I don't like that really strong blue cheese. It tastes like a foot. Well, it does. It tastes delicious, but it smells like a foot.
Oh yeah, blue cheese is one of those things. At least to me, it smells terrible, but
it tastes really good.
Yeah,
like some cheeses are like that. It's like this cheese smells like someone's rotten foot, but it tastes so good.
I know there are people who are into that.
Yeah. Stinky cheese. No, stinky cheese. Like I said,
cheese.
Like stinky cheese is not bad. It's not that it's Monolith Soft is hiring. I guess they're making a new game.
Do they get contractors out for certain things? Is that why some of these companies, when they're about to make a new game, they hire other people because those contractors, whatever they were, contracted out for a limited time, and then they after the game's done, they leave or whatever because their contract is over.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's Nintendo was hiring for. I think it was a few weeks ago. I saw where they're hiring.
But I think Nintendo, when they hire people, they hire them for more of a permanent basis. I think like only for the satellite offices, for like the front end, like stores and shit like that, do they do contracting. I think for like internal for development, they're like, okay, if we're hiring people, it's going to be for long term. Because I mean, like, are you like if someone says your contract is only for 3 months and we might extend it, you're not going to get the people aren't going to work nearly as hard than if they know they have a permanent job and I can build a future here,
Yeah.
So and I'm glad Monolith Soft is hiring. Thank God.
Some people are freelance, so they kind of expect that.
Maybe we'll get that's fucked up, man. Hopefully we'll get if we're lucky we might get here's hoping we get Xenoblade Chronicles X2. Yeah.
One could hope.
Because I mean Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is good, but X is so much better. Yes, said it.
Oh, and you guys heard about UK retailers labeling Animal Crossing for Switch launching on April 2019?
It could.
That doesn't. Well, they haven't really. They only said one thing about it in the
In
that
the
direct
Smash
last
the
year.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of like, well, why are you? They haven't said anything about it since, so it's just kind of weird that it's gonna launch, that soon.
I mean, the thing is this,
The
right?
fact that they didn't show any actual gameplay means that they just
Isn't wouldn't that just be like a placeholder? They usually have those placeholders where, like, oh, it's coming out this date because
Yeah, because I remember Ubisoft did the same thing with fucking Rayman Legends for the Wii U. Because I remember that game was supposed to come out in like February 13th, which was like a week after my birthday. I had pre-ordered that game. I was like, I'm gonna get that game. That'll be my birthday game.
Then they gave you the middle finger.
They moved it back 6 months. I was like, you motherfuckers. And I mean, even now, I refuse to buy Ubisoft games. Like, I'm like, you know what? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Some people let that shit go, but not me. People piss me off. I never let it go.
Okay, so you guys heard about that the Piranha Plant DLC causes your save file to corrupt whenever you use the Piranha Plant on All-Star mode, right?
I've heard of it, though. If anything, I haven't tried it there.
Neither did I. But however, it's not the Piranha Plant is not the only one who's also corrupting these save files on All-Star mode. So is the Mii Sword Fighter and Duck Hunt. And this caused a certain faction of the Smash Bros. Community to speculate that the reason why is because all of their models are maybe used as the basis for upcoming DLC fighters for the past. Kind of because recent data mines show that Piranha Plant used Bowser Jr. as a basis.
Okay.
So people are speculating that the Mii Sword Fighter is being used as a basis for someone like a Dragon Quest character, and Duck Hunt being used as a basis for another quadruped character like Amaterasu from Okami.
I'd be cool with Amaterasu from Okami in the game. But then again, I'm an Okami fanboy, so...
Of course.
Like, I love that game.
Then you got the Banjo-Kazooie supporters using this as a strategy that they may be using Duck Hunt's base model for Banjo-Kazooie as a DLC fighter.
I mean, Banjo-Kazooie... I mean...
Banjo-Kazooie is much more logical than some of the other weird out there picks that people have.
Which I gotta agree on, but iffy is F.
But remember, Reggie just said that all the DLC fighters are going to be unexpected characters like Joker from Persona 5.
But they're going to be... We got to keep this in mind. They're going to be video game characters, everybody. Not anime characters.
Joker is a video game character.
No, that's what I'm saying. Because, people still really want Goku for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
I still don't... Where in the heck does that come from? I know there was
people are lame and annoying. There you go.
There was a meme, right? Several years back, during the Melee era, where you would go onto websites that would advertise like cheats and various hints and tips, and this meme was like, oh, you have to play Jigglypuff on hard.
Oh, you mean that Sonic and Tails April Fool's joke?
Yeah, it was, and then you can unlock Goku. And then I guess that's probably where it originated from, because I remember that. And I remember believing that because I was like 10 or 11 at the time. But it's just, it's people for some reason really want Goku and Smash, and I just don't freaking get it. It was a joke, everyone. It was a joke.
I mean,
The only thing I could say is that the reason why there's so many people who unironically want Goku in Smash is because since Super Smash Bros. Is a fighting game, and Goku's been on some fighting games before from his home series, they think he will make a perfect fit.
He may be in a fighting game. He may have been in crossovers, but no way in the 7 regions of Hades, the underwear world, or in the name of taboo, will Goku ever be in Smash?
I hate to say this, but I would rather them just do another Shonen Jump All Stars.
They should just do it.
I would rather just have another. I'd rather just have another Shonen Jump All Stars than
Goku and Smash.
And Goku and Smash. Because here's the thing: Shonen Jump All Stars is a really good Smash clone.
Yeah.
Too bad we're getting Jump Force, which is basically a copy and paste of Jump Victory Stars from the PS3 and Vita.
Yeah, which I mean is just lazy, but I mean.
But I still see people on YouTube hyping it all up, even though the game's not going to be good overall.
I mean, like, here's the thing: people buy those types of games because they like
anime games.
Well, there's certain anime that they like.
JoJo, One Piece, Naruto.
Yeah. Like, the only reason I would get it is because there's certain characters that I like.
Well, I know that Jump Force has Yugi Moto.
Yeah, so it's like that's basically what we're dealing with. Is that it's just like it's kind of like those.
It's like Forever, but with a certain series.
Yeah, it's like there's certain characters that you like. It's like the reason some people will watch a movie is because there's an actor they like in it. Movie might be shit, but they like that character. You know.
It's like the Mercenaries, or the Avengers.
Well, not so much like that because that's an event. It's like okay, it's like back in the day, people liked sports teams because they liked certain player. They liked the team, right? Like they were fans of the Yankees because of the Yankees. They were fans because of the Bulls because of the Bulls. But over time, because like people are more attached to players or coaches, right? It's like they like this player, so the player leaves that team. They don't give a shit. They like the player. It's like people who are LeBron James fans. They like LeBron James, right? They'll support the team that he's with because they like LeBron James, but not because they like the team. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, I'm an old school fan. Like, I like a team because I like the team. Like, I like the Miami Heat because I used to live in Florida, Southern Florida. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers because I like Mike Tomlin. He's one of the few black coaches in the NFL. You got to support black coaches. I liked Tony Dungy when he was the coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then when he left Tampa Bay. And his team the next year, the team that he fucking built, won the Super Bowl. I was like, that's wrong, Tony. Get your shit together. He went to the Colts along with Peyton Manning and kicked everyone's ass. So it's like, that's basically how people feel about anime characters in video games. It's like the game might suck, but they like this character.
Yeah, that's one reason why I don't go after all those games. Try to look for quality as well as something to enjoy, which is not easy.
Sad, but
so
it
true.
is what it is. But what you gonna do?
Pick with my wallet.
So I just stopped buying the shit. That's what I did. So, yeah, that's basically how I feel about it. The game could be good. It probably won't be though because,
of reasons.
Well, I mean, most anime games are not good. Like Shonen Jump All Stars is the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Because normally stuff like that sucks,
Yeah. Anime games have been disappointing. Although I did like Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 when it came out.
Yeah, Budokai 3 is really good. I'm not gonna lie, Budokai 3 is one of the best games.
Sony jacked that game too. They got exclusivity rights when it first came out.
Yeah, I got it for the GameCube like years after it came out. But it's a good game. It's not bad. It really is not bad.
Which is a sweet deal. At least to most of us.
Yeah.
Well, that said, I got nothing else to discuss.
So anyone want to bring anything up before we
aim at Epic?
I think didn't we talk about Epic earlier?
Well, we talked about them briefly when we were talking about Steam.
Yeah, what the heck is going on? Like, well, I don't know what Epic is thinking by taking, everybody's game away.
I think someone at that I think someone at that store was basically just like, we're gonna do this and there's nothing you can do to stop us, And I think they did it without talking to anybody, and it looks really fucking bad. Like there was no thought put towards it. They just did it,
Like an afterthought, right?
They were like, well, what are they going to do? What's the worst that could happen? It's like a lot of shit could happen, dumbass.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some BS. You can't, like, no, don't freaking.
I mean, that's like, you know what that's the equivalent of? That's like someone saying we're having a wedding and it's going to be over here, right? And be sure to get there in literally a week. Like it's going to take you a while to get there because you can't fly. And these people just fucking, like, you get there and you're on the road like halfway through to get there, and they're like, oh, the wedding's been canceled. It's like, motherfucker. Why would you do that? You better have something, shit. He says, he said, Trinell83 has a comment. He says, I think the RE2 port on the GameCube was more like an up-res port. Resident Evil 1 was a remake. I don't know if it was up-res port, because I didn't get it. I just know that it came out for the GameCube, and I mean, like, there was some really, like, the GameCube had some really good Resident Evil games. I mean, it has arguably the best Resident Evil game made ever thus far, which is Resident Evil 4. The truth is here. Today I made it. What are the topics today before my Xbox bashing starts? Well, we had a few topics. We haven't shit on Xbox yet, or at all, really. We talked about Nintendo's third-party financial reports. We talked about Metroid Prime, the Metroid Prime news hidden within, because they haven't changed when they think Metroid Prime is going to come out. So, I mean, look, I don't have any proof of this, but I think that means that they probably canceled Metroid Prime for like they probably threw out the work that Namco Bandai team did last year. Like I think we're finding out a year after the fact because they just wanted to prepare people for what was going down. So after Fallout, Trinell83 has another comment. After Fallout 76, Bethesda should Bethesda stick to publishing games instead of making them like give their games to developers like Obsidian?
Iffy.
I don't know. Because the thing is like Bethesda, like the problem isn't Bethesda's like okay. Bethesda's games by and large, especially their games that they made themselves, because they bought Fallout. It's not theirs. They bought it. But like the Elder Scrolls, the problem with Bethesda is that they keep on chasing trends instead of creating them. Right? Like Fallout 76 sucks because they wanted to create an open world game. Instead of creating a new IP that was an open world game, they stuck Fallout to it, which made it worse because people have certain expectations with Fallout. If Bethesda said we're creating a new game, it's an open world battle royale style survival game, and it's called, I don't know, Grey Grave, no one would have said anything. They would have been like, oh, this is a nice new IP. It's not that good, but fuck it. But they put Fallout on it because they thought people would buy it because it was Fallout, but it wasn't Fallout. It's some bullshit. The Truth has another comment. The Monolith Soft is an amazing company. Yeah, I like them. They're the workhorse behind Chrono Trigger and the really good Final Fantasy games before Hironobu Sakaguchi left. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 with the story-driven aspects of Xenoblade 1, and I'm excited. I didn't really like the story of the first Xenoblade. I thought it was very cliche. And I saw it coming from a mile away.
Oh, that's what happens when you have a story that's focused on predicting the future.
No, that's what happens when you play tons and tons of RPGs, especially RPGs made by these people. Like you see, like I've been playing Monolith Soft RPGs for years, and believe it or not, their core storylines haven't really been all that different. Like there's 3 tropes they use in all of their games. Like, if you see a church guy who seems like a really good guy, he's an
be ready for him to double cross your rear end.
He's an evil bastard. If you see a guy who looks like a villain, he's probably a good guy, but he's been doing villainous things for some weird reason, you know. They love using the same 3 or 4 tropes, which isn't bad. I mean, I like Sakurai, but he basically reuses a lot of the same ideas over and over and over again. Back then, people supported teams. The reason why Nintendo fans stay loyal, the same to some extent, Sony fans. You know, Sony fans will jump ship in a minute, just like those Xbox fans. Remember those Xbox strong people? Xbox or die. Then the Xbox One came out with that bullshit. They were like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go get a PlayStation."
Abandoned ship.
Like it got so bad that Microsoft doesn't even report sales numbers anymore. Okay, like here's the thing: if your product is doing well, you should, or at least you're making money on it, you should be able to tell people how many units you've sold. Okay, you know who else isn't giving sales numbers of their product anymore? Apple with their iPhone. Think about that. So, yeah. But I mean, I think we've covered everything. Anyone want to bring anything up before we wrap things up? Any surprise topics? Anything?
Not that I know of on the spot.
All right. Well, okay. Pimp out what you guys want to pimp out, and then I'll end it on a joke, and then we'll get on out of here.
Sooner or later, I'll be able to get some things done. Though, if anything, I'm gonna be trying to enjoy my day in peace, since this month is my month coming up. I mean, my month right now, anyways.
All right.
Well, I finally posted my "Why It's Hard to Appeal Video Games to Feminists" article a few days ago.
Yeah, it was an interesting read. Not saying I agreed with it. I'm just saying it was interesting.
And I also posted an article telling people to get Misango to win this weekend's Arms Party Crash event if you want to voice your opinions to bringing back manly anime back into mainstream popularity to overthrow the idle trash menace that is Ribbon Girl.
Okay, Kenoshi, Indiana.
Hey, cookery.
Let it go. Let it go, Indiana. Let it go. Okay, so I guess I'll end it on a joke and then we can bounce. Okay, so these two privates are in the army, and a mule died, and they're arguing over the body, saying, "Is it a donkey or is it a mule?" Right? And the sergeant comes up and he says, "It's an ass. Bury it." So they're digging a hole to put the donkey in the ground, and bury it and everything. And another private comes up and says, "Hey, what type of hole are you guys digging?" And they look up and they say, "Well, it's a." So, and that's your joke for the evening. So with that being said, that's the end of the podcast. Thank you for joining. We might be going through some technical difficulties over the next few weeks as I convert the podcast over from using Google Hangouts to Discord. So bear with me. I'll try to first try it out on a BS Busters Lite or even some of my own personal live videos before I take it to the main, BS Busters. Hopefully, my new computer will be finished by next week, and I'll have
lovers know.
What?
And you'll let us know how it turns out, right?
Well, it's just a new computer. I spent, I think with the parts this guy got, I spent like $750 on it. Look, I'm not putting a lot of money into this PC. I'm really not.
Roger.
So anyway, that's the end of this podcast. Thank you and good night.
And drink responsibly.
See you later.